married, you must be in a relationship. There's nothing like that, you know. And I think that's why a lot of people get divorced, because it's either you're not ready or it's just not for you. It really is just not for you. Some people are just better off alone, or just having partners without actually getting married and doing the whole shebang. But then you have culture and society putting all these unnecessary pressures on you and making you feel like you haven't reached a certain milestone. I think that is just, that needs to end.
Yeah.
It really does, because relationships are tough. They are tough. Like, it's work.
Yeah.
It's not a fairy tale. It is work. And it's not work on some days. It's work every single day. It is work. And some people are just not, interested in doing that, And some people don't even know that that's what you need to do, It's tough. Don't let anyone lie to you and tell you that, no, I'm just still married and me and my hubby. Nah.
Yes.
Nah.
Lies and filth. Lies and filth.
If you were a fly on the wall in their house, you'd be like, this thing is actually quite tough. This is, yeah. This is a hard pill to swallow. So, what was your question?
My question was, what advice would you give to people who want to get into relationships?
Ask questions. Ask. Ask. Exhaust. Don't just, people have this habit of, they think that when you're in a relationship, the questions you should ask are, so what's your favorite color? What's your favorite meal? Oh, you like chicken?
Yeah, you
I
like chicken
too. And,
We're
so
vibing.
now we've got,
something in common. I'll cook chicken for you next time you come through.
No. The questions you should be asking, stuff like, okay, what do you think about, or how do you handle your money? What are your views about handling money? What are your views on kids? How many kids do you want to have? What is your parenting style? Do you have one? Have you thought about it? Because we're coming from different backgrounds, and like you said, we mimic a lot of the things that we grew up watching. You need to ask those kinds of questions. And do you want to buy a house, or are you comfortable renting for the rest of our lives? Do you want to move abroad? And what are your goals in life? Do your goals mirror mine, or we're totally on different paths? And the funny thing is, you'll find a lot of couples where the wife will be like, I want to have 4 kids, and the husband will be like, I want to have 1 kid, and they still get married. And now they've had the 1 kid, and the wife is like,
Qualify.
how far number 2? When are we doing? And the husband's like, no, but I told you, I only want 1. And it becomes a source of pain
and resentment
for the couple. But you knew
before you jumped into the ship.
Yes, or you didn't ask before you jumped in. Yes. Where is this ship going? How many passengers does it have? What's the menu like? What are we eating?
That is such a big question. Like,
yes. Because even like, especially like if you think about finances, if we're both working, who's paying for what? Because in some households you have situations where they're both working, but the wife hands over her entire salary to the man because he's the one who decides where the money's going and what's. Does that mean that you as a person can't decide where you want the money to go? Don't you have views too? Don't you have a say in, let's not buy black sofas, I want the green ones? Or he's deciding everything. Did you ask your partner about that? So we've been taught, or we have this idea that the questions that you're asking are, what's your favorite color, and but ask the things that are going to be a daily source of concern in your life.
Yeah.
Not just something random and superficial, because how a person operates will dictate how they function in a relationship. And the way that they're operating, is it in line with the way that you're operating? Are you moving the same way?
Yeah.
And in the same direction?
Yeah. And I think that one's it's a very interesting one, because I don't think you want to have those tough conversations. You really don't,
because you want to be in the honeymoon phase
yeah,
forever, and be all lovey-dovey and cute and taking selfies together, and me and Boo,
yeah, and the honeymoon phase is just that, a phase. It doesn't last. The rest of the
life
years,
happens.
Yeah, and it's
life
hard.
has to go on. Hard decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
So you need, and also you need. There's so many things you need to ask. The person's love language, the person's personality type, and there's just a lot. Their arguing style.
Yes.
How do they problem solve?
Are they conflict averse? So, when they go quiet and they need time alone, you're still screaming and ranting, and they're like, I can't deal with that. And that becomes another source of conflict as you're trying to resolve another conflict.
And the funny thing, you always see in arguments in movies where a couple is arguing and someone picks up a mug and throws it at the wall and it goes, wah! I'm always like, oh my gosh.
That was part of a tea set
from
Grandma.
First of all, who's going to clean that up?
Guys.
Second of all, that mug costs money. Third of all, why on earth are you throwing things around? Where in the world is that normal?
It's not.
That's a tantrum.
Yes.
That's a tantrum.
6-year-old tantrum.
Yes.
And even 6-year-olds have decency.
And I always say that the way adults behave, right? There's the one meme where it says, you can tell that this person didn't grow up eating cornflakes.
or a crèche.
Yes.
Not a kindergarten.
Yes.
A crèche.
Yes.
Not even crèche. A crèche.
You can tell because there are certain behaviors that people have at a young age that are not nipped in the bud correctly, right? For whatever reason. Not to say that they had parents who neglected them or anything like that. No, it
varies.
It varies. It could be anything, Maybe you were at boarding school.
Yeah.
Or you grew up in a house where there was a single parent. Or for whatever reason, but you see certain behaviors, and I'll say in a classroom because I'm a teacher, right? There are certain behaviors that I see in kids in a classroom, and I'm like, but there's an adult I know that behaves like this. It means that when they were doing this as a child, it was normal for them to do it.
Yeah.
And they thought that kind of behavior was acceptable, and it carried on into adulthood, and it is just wild.
Yeah.
It's wild when you really think about it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to look at. There really is a lot to look at, which is why I keep saying that relationships and marriage are not for everyone, because it's work, it's admin. It really is. It's almost as if you have to be a therapist, asking all these invasive questions just to sort of figure out how your partner's mind works, and whether you can actually deal with how
their mind works.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of evolving on an individual basis relates to reparenting yourself.
Yes.
There's so many behaviors that we picked up, and there's so many traits that we picked up growing up that won't necessarily fly in the real world, or won't necessarily fly when you've got someone else. Like if you were known to storm off in the middle of an argument, and it's just one of those things, no, she has a temper, or he has a temper, or we don't talk to him when times get tough. If it's your spouse speaking to you, and let's say it's a life and death situation, your child has an emergency that needs to be dealt with then and there, storming off will not suffice. It won't fly. It won't work. And therefore, I think the very first port of call, even in any stage, is before you go into any relationship, and this is even with your friends or family members, because you interact with people and you have those ships of relation across the board, is you have to evaluate who you are and figure out whether you would be happy to live with yourself.
Yes.
Would you be happy to live with
Yes.
yourself? Little things like getting up and not making the bed.
Yes.
Or you took a bath or a shower and then you just threw your towel on the bed, and let's say your partner's got OCD, didn't mop the floor.
And if you yourself have OCD, like, how is your partner who doesn't have OCD? How are they dealing with you?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm always like, listen, I know I'm not the easiest person to be around because I'm quite a sensitive person. You know, a lot of things just sink in quickly, deeply with me.
Yeah.
You know, and who wants to be dealing with someone and their emotions on a daily basis? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who wants to be like, you know? So for me, every day is a day for change. It's a day for growth. And I try and identify where I lack and figure out where is this behavior coming from, or why do I feel like this? What happened in the past? Like, I try and narrow it down. And sometimes you have days where you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be a better person because you're tired and you know you just don't have the energy and all of that. But it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think I can relate to those days. I can definitely relate to those days where I feel like a lot of people don't actually have these discussions with themselves. It's not an easy road.
I think if you ask yourself, can I live with myself? You know, am I an easy person to be around? The answers that would come up would surprise you. I think if you were really being honest. With yourself, and if you find someone who can tolerate and love you enough to stick with you through your growth, your own personal growth, and your own little annoying traits and stuff like that, then you've found yourself a teammate. You really have found yourself a teammate. You know, someone who's always there looking out for you, and it's no longer just, you know, about them or about you. It's now us, and you're working towards being better versions of yourselves together.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember having a friend who said that she would put on makeup even when her husband was coming home. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that is just so much admin. That is just too much work. And her reasoning and her logic was, I'm showing him that I'm making an effort, that he means that much to me. And in the same way, the mental conversations, the emotional work that you have to do internally in that way, and like literally putting on your makeup on the inside and making sure that you are presentable. That is like a relationship. That's hard yards. It's knowing that your partner appreciates certain aspects or certain things, and sometimes they might not be innate or inherent in your personality, but you will go out of your way to show up for them in that way. And one of the things I've noticed in relationships that I've seen fall apart is one person comes into the equation and says, you found me like this, and you have to accept me as I am, and that's still playing on the me team. Whereas it's, you found me like this, I found you like this, where can we meet in the middle? Because if you think, for example, that being sloppy and being, for lack of a better word, a frat, and then marrying Mrs. or Mr. OCD is going to fly, the honeymoon period will fade.
It will.
It will fade. Then that'll be the bone of contention. Why did you break up? Oh no, she's just too dirty. She's just untidy, guys. Like, I can't. What are you? That is what broke you up? The fact that she's dirty? Or, you know, it's little things or seemingly little things, but if they're important to your partner.
That's the thing. Because
they're important to your partner.
If you can see that this person is sloppy, because that's the example that we have, you need to ask yourself, why are they sloppy? You know, let's, for argument's sake, say that they're sloppy because they grew up being told not to be sloppy, and the way that they were told was hurtful.
Yes.
Now they've finally found their own space, and they're free to be
Sloppy, and it's a form of rebellion. It's I'ma be me.
No, it's. I don't think it's a form of rebellion. I think it's a form of taking back what you feel like you lost. Like you're trying to replace something that has been taken away from you. I'm not saying that that's an excuse for sloppiness. It's just an example. You know, like take for instance, you know, like culturally they'll be like the woman has to wake up at 5 in the morning and clean up. And if you grew up in a home where that was a sore point for you, and yes, you need to be, you know, tidy and all of that, but if cleanliness was taught to you in a traumatic manner, the day you finally leave that specific environment and find your own space, you will not want to be clean because it's a point of trauma for you. It's you know, so in just being allowed to wake up at 9, it's almost like you're healing yourself and taking back your freedom, taking back your ability to make choices for yourself. You know, in a healthy way, in a way that's not damaging to, you know, your emotions or your mental health and things like that. You know, so I think you just need to get into the habit of not looking at things at face value, and asking. It's not always that deep, but just ask yourself, is there a possibility that it is that deep? You know, because this is the problem, but what is the root cause? Where is this coming from? That's why I always say that when you're in a relationship, you need to come from a place of love, allowing your person to be who they are and trying to understand why they are the way that they are.
I think my final question, because we've covered quite a bit, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of follow-ups. Yes, there will be quite a few questions from me and the masses. How do you evolve in a relationship when there's more than 2 of you on the boat, and there's now little babas and little nanas and, you know, little people, little spawns of you and him and all the good stuff?
A relationship will always have or let me say your bus can at any time stop and pick up passengers.
Yes.
But once it's picked up those passengers, it must keep moving. So you need to figure out, okay, these people, how do they fit into this trip? Into this journey, and how are we moving together? How am I moving with them? You know, it's parenting is just that's a whole different
ball game.
Yeah, that's something else, you know. Like you said, because you're reparenting yourself and then trying to parent these newbies, you know, and trying not to damage these little beautiful people. You know. It's crazy, but you just have to figure out a way that works. And like I said, lowering your expectations and voicing them at the same time, because your partner could have grown up in a household where the father was the dominant parent, and you grew up in a household where the mother was the dominant parent. So that's another thing that you need to ask: your parenting style. What kind of household did you grow up in? How were you disciplined? You know, because you might not agree in the way that you discipline your children, and that could be a big source of arguments as well, like you know. So it's a lot, but it's manageable. It's something that's doable, especially if you are willing to accept that it might not always go your way. I always say that there's no failure, there's success or lessons. If you have not succeeded, there's a lesson to be learned. So there's no such thing as failure. It's either you succeeded or you've been given an opportunity to learn something, grow from it, and just be a better, more informed version of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think it's very interesting because I see how my partner parents our kids, and then I see him watching me parent
Yeah.
our kids, and then when we're having our little talks, we'll discuss and be like, "But did you check what you were doing?" You know, so it's trying to find a balance. I don't think there ever is a complete balance, but
Yeah.
there's some kind of normalcy that you have to arrive at.
Yeah.
That's healthy and that makes sense and that ultimately encourages the whole team to just move forward. And I think again the important thing is to just come from a place of love for yourself and for your partner and the other passengers on the bus that you're on.
The other passengers. About that. Yeah. Quite a few nuggets of wisdom, if not chunkfuls of them, in this episode. I've learned quite a bit myself. But I think I like that the idea that if it's coming from a place of love and you want the team to win, and you want your partner and you to win because it's us against the world as opposed to me against you, it makes a lot of sense. And ask the tough questions. Those are very uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable, but necessary. I think we gloss over a lot of things and
we romanticize.
Guys, there's nothing romantic about having to do hard yards. And I think the analogy I'd leave you with is the idea of thinking of being in a relationship like how you grew up in a family. There were certain siblings or certain members of the family who didn't necessarily go by the book, or who you had to accommodate, or who had to accommodate you because you were the troublesome one, or whatever the case is. It's learning each other's behaviors, it's learning each other's pet peeves, routines, needs, and seeing if you can show up for the other person. So yeah, I feel like this was a really informative session. I'm gonna be taking notes later.
I think I should have taken notes as well.
We'll watch it later. You know, we can always do that. Yeah.
Quite interesting. I think I like how you touched on Disney stories and stuff like that. And yes, they sold us dreams, but if you really analyze them, there's some nuggets of wisdom there as well. You know, some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to analyze other people's relationships and ask them how they dealt with certain situations. It's important to always look for an outside perspective, because there just might be something that you're missing because you're inside the ring
and too close to the action.
And too close to the action. So there's something that you could have missed that someone else can be like, no, when I was going through this, this is what we did, and it failed because of this, or it succeeded because of this, and we got out of it, like, you know, we survived this situation because this was our plan. It might not really work out for you, but you might pick up something that might help. You know,
so go to the X-Files and ask why it ended and how it ended and see, because it might be the same iceberg that sinks your Titanic. It just might be. Why is it that when we're buying products, we go and ask for reviews and we check for online reviews and
check for
relationships reviews and feedback. And there's always that one cousin or that one friend that likes you, and they'll give you the inside track, and they'll be like, "I love her, run for the hills." Or they'll be like, "Yeah, no, you can tame the lion. You can just give Marty this, or give Simba a bird." It always works. It always, because it's for you and it's for the team. And yeah, that does make sense, guys. Just go for those X-File reviews or family member inside tracks. Ask. that kid at the back of the class, like, mem, I did not understand what's going on.
Because if you don't ask, you'll never know.
You won't. Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, this was actually quite fun.
Right.
We should do this more often.
We should. We should.
10 years later.
We should. Yes. We should.
Guys, it's been awesome hanging with
fun.
you.
It's been fun.
It's been fun. Like, I don't understand why she doesn't give me this really good advice. When I'm asking for advice, there's going to be some lectures.
I need to take down some notes of some of the things that I said, because as I was talking, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to shout at you for this later. Because I was like, what did you tell me? Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you for another session, another fun time. Yeah. Please pop some questions in the comment section if there's anything you want us to talk about, or there's anything you want to hear more about. Please do pop us some questions.
Looking forward to hearing from you and seeing what you've been going through in your relationships and what you've picked up, what you've learned, and it would be nice to share and just see what everyone else out there is going through.
Tell us how Mjolo has nisa'd you. Until next week, guys. Bye.
Yay.